Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. I'm James Salvatore, and today's a cool day because this is all new. This is the 2022 Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo. And it's Porsche's next effort at further expanding within the electric car market. And by first looks, I think they've done a pretty good job with this. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the technical features, specs, and then go for a drive and see how it does. But if you're new to the channel, I typically do new car reviews, new car comparisons, classic cars, exotic cars. So if that's your thing, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on that bell notification so you don't miss out on my future videos. Now let's get right into it. In early 2020, Porsche had a lot of success with the Taycan when they first launched it, despite everything going on at the time. And it's nice to see them making more than just high-performance variants of the car. The Taycan 4 Cross Turismo is a very different offering than what we've seen from Taycan models thus far. The most obvious difference being that it now has a hatchback wagon design. It has more ground clearance as opposed to the other models, and it starts at $93,700, making it a more affordable all-wheel drive option compared to the other models. When it comes to performance, you have two motors on the front and rear axle mated to a 2-speed transmission producing 375 horsepower and 368 foot-pounds of torque, and it can make up to 469 horsepower when engaged in launch control mode. It'll do 0 to 60 in just 4.8 seconds with the top speed of 137 miles an hour with a range of about 215 miles according to the EPA. When it comes to charging on alternating current, it will charge from 0 to 100% in about 10.5 hours. On direct current with a 50 kilowatt charger, it will charge from 5 to 80% in about 93 minutes. And with maximum charging power on direct current, it will charge from 0 to 80% in about 22.5 minutes. The Taycan is a great place to be, especially this particular vehicle. It has the upgraded leather interior, and it really does make a difference. It is expensive though. It's about, I think, $7,000. So it's definitely a pretty coin, but everything is wrapped in leather. It feels premium. It feels really high quality in here. And when it comes to the tech, this is one of my favorite virtual cockpits because it curves with the dash like a traditional cockpit, and the screen is actually pretty thin. Off to the right here, you'll have your suspension stiffness settings. You could raise the vehicle, and that's individual mode. You have your light controls here. They're all haptic feedback. You can see in the center, you have a few different displays. You could have the traditional gauge cluster. You could have a map in the middle of the two dials. You could have the extended map, which really displays nicely. And then reduced is just very simple if you don't want anything too busy. The infotainment system's pretty straightforward. However, it is different than other Porsche products. So if you have another Porsche vehicle in the household, this is going to be different. I mean, you still have your functions displayed here on the left. However, they did modify it because this is an EV vehicle. Like, it'll show you some of your charging data. When you use the navigation, it will also incorporate within your route chargers along the way. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay as well, which keeps things pretty simple. And then you have another screen in the center console as well, which is for your HVAC controls. It's pretty good, but I still prefer having some physical buttons, or this could have just been haptic feedback buttons in my opinion. I don't think they needed to do a screen. You could see here, this is how you open the frunk. You can open your trunk. You could open the charge ports. And then below that is kind of like a trackpad. And then you can see on the right here, the passenger has their own screen, which pretty much gives them all the functions that the driver has. They can actually connect their own phone to the passenger side, which is pretty neat. This is an option, and I wouldn't actually really consider it really that necessary because most of the functions are redundant with the main screen. And it has wireless charging right here in the glove compartment. You can see, it's like a little pouch. You put your phone like that. Getting into the rear, I'm 6'1", seat set up from when I was sitting up there. So you can see I have just a little bit more knee room. Not super roomy, but not bad either. The seats have a little bit of bolstering, which is nice. So if you're going around turns, you're not going to get thrown around as much. Headroom is pretty good. I would say if you're 6'3", you'll still fit in here. After that, I think you know, it's no shot. But overall, pretty comfortable. I would say that it's not really too much different from the experience you get in the normal car. You don't really get like significantly more headroom because of the design. It's just you could put the seats down and load things into the rear much easier if you have to. And coming around to the rear, the storage capacity is definitely the biggest difference between this and the normal Taycan models. When you open the trunk on the normal Taycan models, the opening is actually very small, making it hard to fit, you know, like maybe suitcases or bags in the trunk, and the trunk really isn't that big overall. This is nice, easy to load stuff. You have a privacy shade here, but you can remove it pretty easily. It's just 2 cables and then up and out. And then you get about 15 cubic feet with the seats up, and with them down 42, and you get 2.9 in the front. So what is it like to drive? Now, I've driven every trim level, every variant of the Taycan, and I have to say this is a very good balance between the feel of the higher end models and, you know, being at a fair price point. Because when I drove the base, or, you know, the entry level Taycan, it really didn't blow me away. Honestly, like, it wasn't a bad car, but it didn't feel like it had enough power. It didn't feel like it had that punch. You know, it was still a nice car because the Taycan, you know, itself is a nice car. You know, the layout, the design. But this really does kind of give you the best of both worlds. It's like just a step under that 4S model, and it really feels that way. It doesn't feel like it's that much less than the 4S. In comfort mode, the car actually is raised up a bit, and the air suspension really does a good job at slacking off. I mean, it's very compliant and refined and very comfortable. Honestly, definitely the most comfortable out of the Taycan range, just because you have that extra suspension travel. Throttle calibration is really on point. In comfort mode, the power just eases on. You know, it's not too abrupt. It's not like you kind of like just tap on the accelerator and, you know, you get that surge of power. That's not what you want in comfort. The calibration is just great. I mean, I'm just rolling onto the accelerator and it's smooth, effortless torque. But then you throw it into Sport Plus and you have this nice little drive mode selector on the steering wheel. You throw it into Sport Plus and the car instantly levels, and there is a very clear difference in feel between the modes. The car sits down, you're down lower, the dampers really firm up, you know, because this is an air suspension system, so, you know, you really do tell the difference. It's not like you just put it in sport and the throttle's more aggressive. And even though this is rated at under 400 horsepower, my butt dyno is definitely not saying under 400 horsepower. I mean, like, it has some serious punch. Like that's quick. That's quick. That definitely doesn't feel like under 400 horsepower, but that's what they have it rated at, unless you go into launch control mode. And then in launch control mode, you get, I think it's, I said it earlier in the video, I think it's like 469 horsepower, which is a very healthy amount. It really is truly amazing what they've done with these cars when it comes to suspension and damping and handling. I'm very impressed with that. One of the best things about this car is, compared to the Panamera, this really does give you more of a feel of being in a 911 than a Panamera, by far. Because the Panamera, like, first off, like, you look out the hood and the Panamera has wheel arches, but they're not as defined as these. And seeing that the Panamera's front engine, the hood can't just swoop right down like a 911. And I think when it comes to, you know, presence, you know, like styling and, you know, being seen in this, you know, because for some people that's what does it for them. This just has so much presence. It looks so cool, especially like this in a chalk color. It's so distinctive, so different. And, you know, the Taycan in general, like,
you don't look at it like, oh, that's an electric car. You know, it's cool, but you know, you look at it on the outside, it's like, eh. No, you look at this, and these are just so cool. And in terms of like a hatchback, like wagon design, they have just knocked it out of the park with this. In my opinion, there is not a bad angle on this car. I would say, like, if you're between $100,000 and $105,000 on this car to maybe 110, like that, this is so worth the money. I mean, look at the performance you get. This does not feel like a wagon at all. It's very nimble. The steering is very direct. You know, you have a little bit of input, and right there, I mean, like, there is, you know, just a slight bit of roll, but barely any. The body is controlled so well. The 4S, honestly, is the best in terms of like power, you know, balance, having enough, but not, you know, leaving you from wanting more. This, for most people, is gonna be enough. The base car didn't feel like it had enough power. This car definitely feels like it's the right balance. And for those of us who live in areas where we experience winter and have snow, you have the all-wheel drive because you have the motor on the front axle. I mean, like, this is just, honestly, it's such a good package, and I really do see Porsche selling a lot of these. And if you're listening to this and only hearing positive things and thinking to yourself, oh, you know, he's like a Porsche salesman, and, you know, oh, he's not going to say anything bad about the car, that's completely wrong. If you watch me on the channel, you'll know that I'll tear apart a car. If it's terrible, I'm going to let you know. It's just that they really honestly have done such a good job with this platform, and seeing that this is a new model for this year, I think that they've done a good thing at making an all-wheel drive variant that starts below $100,000. The only downside I see with this car is the range. The EPA estimates this at 215 miles, and you know, some on the internet claim to get more than that, which I'm sure it's possible. You know, the EPA probably rates these cars very conservatively. But let's just say, you know, it is 215 miles. That's really not that much. And, you know, like, for somebody who drives a fair distance or, you know, commutes to different places for work and whatnot, like, say me, I could easily do 100, 150, 200 miles in a day with what I do in real estate. That would annoy me if I had to stop and charge, even if it's a half hour. That's a half hour out of my day that I have to wait on top of commuting to charge the vehicle. So I think as a package overall, Porsche's done a great job with the vehicle. It looks amazing. The interior is spot on. The tech is there. The ride comfort, everything about this feels like a complete package, but the battery technology just has to catch up. So if you're dead set on getting an electric car, and you got a budget between 90 and 110,000 at least, you need to drive one of these. You need to go look at one. And trust me, I'm not a Porsche super fanboy. I'm not trying to sell you this car. If anything, I'm a Mercedes fanboy. So this is a very unbiased opinion. This car really just is that good. Well, that sums up my thoughts on today's car. As you can see, this is a very distinctive design, and I think they've done a great job with it. If you haven't done so yet and you enjoyed the video, be sure to help me out by hitting that like button and subscribing and turning on the bell notification so you don't miss out on my future videos. Before we go, I'd like to say a special thanks to my friends down at Porsche of Fairfield, Connecticut for loaning me today's car to make this video possible. They're an awesome, super helpful, friendly group of people to work with, and if you're in the market for a new Porsche, be sure to check them out. I'm going to leave a link to their information below so you can do so. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.